But anyway, the guitar went back to Steve, and he was pissed. Like he wasn't happy at all. Well, all three of these things here was actually a revenge by Steve Vai. This guitar still sounds so good all these years later. Well guys, welcome to a new series where I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey going way back to my old original guitars, the guitars that I grew up playing. And I'm going to try and remember as many stories as I possibly can, but I'm sure I'm going to need a little bit of help from you guys, reminding me of those crucial moments that I'm probably about to miss. I actually have a few more guitars that go even further back than this old Ibanez Jam. The Tony McAlpine BC Rich, that does need some TLC. The Steve Stevens Hamer, I believe it's the gold one. You guys probably will know better than me. And also a custom pink Les Paul. So if you want to see those guitars at some point in this series, then do let me know in the comments below. And whilst you're there, if you could take a second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, that would be absolutely awesome. So without further ado, let's get rolling with the first guitar in this series, my original floral Ibanez Jam. Alright, here we go, my first ever Ibanez Gem, the Floral Gem. In fact, such a legendary guitar. This has been on so many tours and done so many shows and TV appearances, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So I'm guessing this guitar arrived with me somewhat in late 80s or so, 88 I'm guessing. But shortly after the release of this model anyway, and back then obviously there was no internet, so I'm sure my dad was like on the phone, maybe a big phone, who knows, to some US dealers and had it shipped over to my hometown here in Newcastle. And I still remember that feeling of opening the case and seeing it for the first time. Do you remember those cases that Ibanez used to use and they had like pink, like fluffy pink inside, and they always smelled really sweet? I remember like opening it up and smelling that for the first time, and the combination of that and seeing the gem in the case, it was just like, it was a big moment at that time, because, you know, back then I was so into guys like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, and all these other amazing players of that era. I mean, they're all still great players now, obviously, but it was a special moment for sure, opening that case and seeing this guitar in there. And it was so pristine, you know, compared to how it is now. But I think when I see all this, I'm not going to say damage, I'm just going to say character. When I see all this character now on this guitar, it's all about the stories and memories and all the laughs and all the hard work and everything that happened along the way. And this guitar quickly became a main guitar of mine to play. I think the reason why I jumped from BC Rich to Hamer to Gibson and then to Ibanez, I was a young kid and really struggling to find the perfect neck and the guitar that felt so good. And at the time, this slimmer neck profile and the way it felt definitely was like the guitar for me, and it was the guitar that I used for so many TV appearances, shows like the Little and Large Show, so many of those shows from that era, and it was in a lot of magazines. And then when I met Steve Vai for the first time, this was the guitar that I took into the tour bus and played for Steve, and it kind of sparked a relationship from then with Mr. Vai. I always found it interesting how this guitar had a certain sound versus some of the other gems that had totally different tonal properties. Some of them had a little bit more mid-range bark, some of them were a bit brighter and a little bit more cutting, where this was always the one that was really well-rounded. And I always found that really sort of fascinating, especially as they all had a very similar configuration when it comes to the pickups. Tone zone in the bridge, the original paths on the neck, and the original pickup that came as the single coil there as well. So I always found that kind of interesting how I could have the same Marshall amp, plug a different guitar in and get a different tone. So you may have spotted that this guitar is certainly looking well used, shall we say, and it's got a lot of character. Back when I was a kid, I used to break a lot of necks. I was a really bad boy. Very naughty. I'm much better with guitars these days. But let me give you a little context on how I would actually break necks, because it wasn't just a case of me being bored and just slamming a guitar into the ground to break the neck. A lot of the time, it was genuine reasons. You know, for example, one time I'm in a rehearsal room, the rehearsal's going really well for the video shoot of a Bad for Good record. Steve Vai is very happy with the progress. Steve Vai invites Interscope A&R guys to come and see what's going down. It's looking good. And then I decided to pull off a few extra special Steve Vai moves of my own by trying to throw the guitar around the neck. It wasn't my fault that one of the strap locks came off and the guitar went through the bathroom wall and resulted in breaking a neck, you know? So that would be like a typical example of how a neck would break. Apparently Ibanez guitars don't like being thrown through bathroom walls, but it was a hell of a moment. Everybody laughed. I picked up another guitar and we continued rehearsing for the actual the video shoot. But stuff like that would generally happen. Sometimes it would happen on stage. I'd go to throw the guitar around and it was a smaller roof on the stage than I'd anticipate, and the bloody guitar would hit the stage roof. All sorts of silly stuff. So it wasn't always just me dragging guitars around on the back of Harley Davidson motorbikes, but that did happen. Maybe that story's for another video. So getting back to this guitar, man, I could go off track so easily. There's just so many stories, but we'll pan those stories out as we go through the series. So what I was going to ask you guys is, this guitar I think is the original neck, but I always found it really fascinating how the back is so damn clean. Let me get a little bit closer and show you guys. So look at this neck. Look at the headstock. Let me flip that around a little bit. You see how it's super duper clean? So that was always like puzzling. Like some of my other guitars, the headstocks, the back of the neck, looks really just super worn in comparison. Now I always played pretty damn light, so all of my gems are on the original frets. I actually never wore any of those nickel frets down, so I don't know how, considering how many hours these guitars have had playing, all of them are on the original frets. You can see the original curtains starting to come through. Some cracks in the lacquer in different parts of this guitar. You can see right in there we've got some cracks. Some cracks in the lacquer right there. If you guys could let me know what you think of the back of this neck and how it's so clean, and is it likely to have been replaced? Do serial numbers normally go on the back here? Is that a thing? Let me know what you guys think. That would be really, really interesting just to start piecing some of these stories together. So let's get to the body. Let's get to the action here. So one thing I used to love doing, you know, I was always a long-time DiMarzio user and had a great relationship with DiMarzio. And they would let me spec my own pickups a lot of the time by filling out a form and faxing it over to them. Totally crazy. And then they'd make these pickups and send them out. But in this guitar, it's Tone Zone, original single coil, and the Path pickups. And I used to always dig mixing the colors up and kind of just being a little bit creative. Same with the tone knobs and volume knobs and stuff. And you know, I really like kind of just mixing it up a little bit. So obviously got the, oh, that sounds haggard, doesn't it? That sounds like it's got a cough. Oh. The actual tape that you're seeing around the body, it's just not normal tape. This tape all came from Steve Vai's mixing console back in the mothership. So you know when guys like write kicks, snare, guitars and stuff like that, well, Steve had not long finished Passion and Warfare, so a lot of the tape that is actually pulled off the mixer, actually just pulled it off and stuck it on here. I have no idea why, but I like the look of it, I guess, you know, when it's kick, snare, left and right guitar, clean guitar, all that stuff. So a lot of the tape and duct tape that you see on this guitar is from the mothership mixing console. And thinking about that now, I think that is kind of a cool thing. What do you guys think? Am I alone in that? Like, I wouldn't typically just grab some normal duct tape and just put it on the guitar. I think that would maybe be a little bit weird. That is interesting as well. I just noticed this plate here. So that might help you guys with what I was talking about earlier, the piecing the puzzle. It doesn't look like this guitar has a serial number of any kind, so perhaps Ibanez have done something to help me out with the neck or something at some point. There's a lot of writing on the back of this guitar as well, so let me see if I can get you guys to get a better view of that. So yeah, right away, big balls. Now, I think my man Mark Cimino wrote that, and what it meant is basically I was always fearless. Any situation, you know, stage, big stage, whatever, I would always attack it and be right up, you know, no problem, no fear. And I was always a very, very shy kid, you know. It was terrible when I'd do like interviews, especially with my dad, because my dad, well, actually we both had very heavy accents. We both had very Geordie accents, so we were very difficult to understand by typical US media. And I was always really, really quiet on camera, so if I did like a live TV show, it would just be the most awkward viewing ever, I promise you. Absolutely horrendous viewing. I'm not sure where I'm going with that or this entire video, but I'll persevere. So, other things that you'll notice, you'll notice that. For a start, the hacksaw mark here, and the vicious assault right here with a hacksaw as well. Now, that wasn't me. That was actually, well, all three of these things here was actually a revenge by Steve Vai. I was on tour with my band Bad for Good. This guitar was supposed to arrive at the venue, but for some reason it didn't arrive into the venue. I think this was in LA. It was like going to be delayed a day. So I asked Steve if I could borrow his floral gem because, you know, I really liked floral gems. And at that time, the floral gem was like the main guitar I was using for all the TV stuff, the Bad for Good touring, which was the, maybe that was the Joe Satriani tour, I'm not sure. But anyway, Steve very kindly loaned me his floral gem, and we both used the same guitar tech at the same time, a super cool guy. And so Steve's tech came along and set all the gear up and it was fantastic, like saved the day. But for some strange reason, you know, bear in mind I was a bit of a lunatic, okay? There's no sugarcoating this. When I was in my teens, I was absolutely out of my mind. I decided that it would be a great idea to cut the handle out of Steve's guitar and just cut some other little bits off it, you know, just for the heck of it. No idea why. Not something I would do these days, but hey, it happened. And I thought it looked great, and I played the show with it. In fact, I'm sure I jammed with Vi, Satch on the same evening using that guitar. But anyway, the guitar went back to Steve, and he was pissed. Like he wasn't happy at all. Major pissed. And he didn't say it to me directly, but he said to the tech that he was just not happy. Because it turns out it was his favorite guitar. Oh my god, like I cut into his favorite guitar. So anyway, my guitar turned up. And now, at the time, I believe I was living with Steve, so my guitar eventually turned up like a day or two later, and I was out doing some other gigs, and he got the hacksaw, and he started just laying it into my guitar as revenge. But luckily for me, like, he left the headstock on, and it still played great, so he could have went a little bit further. He could have cut these horns off, but he showed some self-restraint, right? And so that's why I have chunks and hacksaw marks. Well, marks, more like, yeah, that's more than a mark, I'd say, actually. But that's why this guitar is a little bit extra hacked up. It was revenge by Steve, and but no hard feelings, we're totally cool now, and it's all good. So a fun little story about why this guitar is partly in the condition that it is in. But yeah, I mean, it still plays great. It's an amazing sounding guitar. Actually, haven't recently fired up for the first time in a long time. I'm surprised how well it does sound. Let me know what you think. Alright guys, I think that pretty much wraps it up for the first video in this series. So yeah, I'm going to try and take you through each of the guitars that I acquired over the years, leading up to the guitars that I play now, and I'm going to try and remember as many fun stories as possible. So if you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as well. That would be amazing. And until next time, you guys take care, and I'll see you very soon. Alright, take care for now. Bye. What a noob. Oh my god.